To some, the state juvenile justice system is overwhelmed and out of control. The latest figures tell you why. Of some 45,000 offenses committed by young people during the past year, only 17,000 made it to court. Many others simply fell through the cracks. Most of the crimes were committed by kids ranging from 13 to 17 years of age. Well, picture this. One 18-year-old I met recently went through and walked out of the state juvenile justice system with a future. Just 5 years ago, some would have given up on then 13-year-old Dwayne Howard.
When I was 13, I left my parents, I left my house, and I was hanging with my friends, and we didn't want to go to school, we just wanted to hang out. So I got into selling drugs.
Dwayne Howard didn't go far to find his mean streets. This kid of 13 staked out his turf a block from home at Monroe and Edmondson. In 3 years, he grew from a kid running drugs to a street-smart and armed drug entrepreneur.
I had to protect myself. I carried guns, my friend carried guns. It was just something, it was a status thing out there, like, to have a car, to have a gun.
Do you ever have to use it?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Do you ever hurt anybody?
Sometimes, I had to. Because the life I was living, that was what it was called for.
He was our first teenager, so we didn't really realize what was happening at the time.
It was just a matter of time before word drifted home that shook the family to its core. Dwayne, or Dee Dee as he is called, was selling drugs.
So it came to a point of actually putting him out my home and told him, well, when you're ready to change, then you can come back.
Dwayne was making money, but looking over his shoulder every step of the way. Still, he got caught several times by the police. He was always released into the custody of people the authorities thought were his parents.
Well, I paid junkies, like people that use drugs, to come and get me out, or you know what I'm saying? I'd just pay anybody to come get me, or call a friend or somebody that looked a little older.
Pretend to be your parents?
Pretend to be my parent, yeah.
Sadly, all too often what happens is we either put them on probation knowing that they're overworked and they won't be able to get to these kids, or we put them in an institution.
So what's wrong with the system? You usually hear that there are too many kids and too few resources. But according to Jim McComb, whose organization represents private facilities for troubled young people in Maryland, the problem doesn't end there.
We need a plan, a system, a strategy for reaching those kids who are acting out in ways that are pre-delinquent, if you will, and for reaching those kids who are who have too many opportunities to be delinquent because they're not in school, the habitual truant.
We know that children who have learning disabilities, if untreated and if uncared for, are going to have problems in the classroom. Those problems in the classroom will probably lead that child to disruptive behavior that will get the child expelled from school. When that child starts getting on the street, it's going to have to that child's going to find some way to occupy its time. Too many of these kids who come to our court have been diagnosed as learning disabled.
Judge Mitchell believes early diagnosis of children with learning disabilities would speed up the state's involvement with children before they become troubled kids.
Y'all don't want to grow up and sell drugs? Wow.
Dwayne Howard danced around the juvenile justice system until the day he was caught leaving an Amtrak train, carrying drugs from New York. He spent time in Hickey, but believes the turnaround in his life came at a juvenile facility called Bowling Brook.
There were people there my same age going through the same problems as I had gone through, but they were doing it positive, going positive. That's what they call it out there, going positive.
The Thomas O'Farrell Youth Center in rural Howard County runs a program similar to Bowling Brook. 40 troubled kids, 13 to 18 years of age, live here up to a year. 16-year-old Paul, a resident for just 2 months, is trying to learn another way to live, one that does not include assaults and arson.
One time I had said I was going to kill myself, and I took a bottle of penicillin pills, and I ate like 36 pounds of penicillin pills. It didn't do nothing to me though. But that's how bad I felt about myself before.
A lot of kids come from troubled backgrounds, and what we do is we minimize the trouble around them so they can gain some sense of esteem and some sense of control. It works because the kids work it. What we have here is a positive peer model. What that means is kids are involved in a positive culture. We don't put a kid down. We try to pick a kid up. We give him a purpose. We give him a direction. We give him the support so he can sustain himself as he learns a different value system.
Something worked. For now, 18-year-old Dwayne Howard is back in school at the Community College of Baltimore. He's back at Bowling Brook on weekends, but this time as a paid staff member who counsels other kids with troubled backgrounds. And he'll talk to anyone out here, anyone who's willing to listen.
All of our youth don't use drugs, so they may be around that, but they couldn't emerge.
What I do is I come out and I do the right thing, and I talk to them. You know, I don't hang with them, but I talk to them sometimes, and I help my friends that want to make a change but may not know, just like I didn't know. And you know, it's working, you know. I just set an example.
Back in the old neighborhood with old friends and those old so familiar temptations. Is he strong enough now to keep setting his good example? Dwayne Howard leaves me with these words.
I wake up every morning with that same question in mind. You know, it's just like alcoholism. You know, it's kind of it's an addiction. But you know, if you persevere, then you can overcome.
Dwayne Howard has given this story a happy ending, but in truth, many people in the juvenile system say there will never be enough facilities such as Bowling Brook, and even if there were, state funding would never be adequate, and community opposition would make it difficult to place the facilities where they are needed most. So that's why many feel the system is not working, that a complete overhaul of the juvenile justice system is needed.
Well, you've taken a look at it, so if they were to overhaul it, what direction should they take?
Well, you hear a lot that early intervention, as Judge Mitchell was saying, start young. Start by identifying kids who have learning disabilities, perhaps, and start treating that, because so often, as he says, you look at a kid's record and there it is, learning disabilities, and it's plagued him all the way through his life. Nobody has done anything until he's committed a crime and become a part of the system. Start there. But, you know, again, as someone else said tonight, have a plan, something to do, something other than putting a lot of money into a facility such as Hickey when kids have reached the end of the line. Start